We help busy over 40s get in shape in 30 days with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week. Grab your free ebook to find out how we do this. Type yes in the comments or check the link in our bio or description.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We have another powerful episode of the Kettle Nights podcast. And today, I have a friend with me. His name is Jim Lincoln. And we are connected in a very interesting way. Jim is one of the first, at least in the beginning stages when I started making English content, Jim is one of the early adopters. He started purchasing courses, we started having conversations, and we were able to be with him throughout his weight loss journey. You're going to learn about this powerful journey that this man went through, and it's not just a weight loss journey. I'm not going to spoil it all. He did some other things as well, which I think is so awesome. He had such a great trajectory, and this is a conversation between friends. So, Jim, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. I have to say that after looking at the long list of kettlebell heavy hitters you've had on this podcast, I'm like, oh, you've got Dennis Vasilev, you've got this person, and then you've got me.
Yeah, of course, because I have friends on too, right? So it's not just, I'm not like I mentioned before we started recording. It's not just. Of course, this is always a cool thing to have to talk to people and to expand my knowledge. But here's the beautiful thing: even when you talk to friends, you're able to expand your knowledge. And one of the reasons why we're on this podcast now, when we're having this episode, is because Jim actually wanted to ask me some questions, right? You said, hey, I want to do an interview and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Let's turn this into a podcast because I have some questions too. So, Jim, please, before you ask me some stuff, I want to ask you the first question that I always do for regular viewers and listeners of the podcast is I want to know your backstory. I know it, but I think some of our listeners don't. So let's go. How did you get started with kettlebells, and what was that big journey that you were on that I mentioned?
Okay, so kettlebells. I unlike a lot of you guys, I came to kettlebells in 2020. So in December of 2020 is how I came to kettlebells, and I have in your video you pointed out is I've lost 100 pounds like 3 times.
This is so crazy, man.
So I have always struggled with my weight, and I think about this, and I'm somebody who comes from a family, white collar. I'll call it cerebral. So we're very into hobbies. So hobbies where you sit, you use your hands, you use your mind, you're creative, you do things, you sit and do stuff. I'm horribly addicted to computer games, stuff like that. So when I was in my 20s, we're good. So everybody knows I started kettlebells in 2020. We're going further back. Nothing to do with kettlebells. I may have looked at them. I don't know. So when I was in my 20s, of course, I started with some friends, lifting weights, trying to lose weight, get stronger. I did okay. Got Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which I think virtually everybody has. Yeah. Every male that's touched a weight has purchased that book. Yeah. I don't know where it is. I'm sure it's in this house somewhere. I don't think I ever got rid of it, but I haven't looked at it in a long time. And so did a lot of stupid things. So it's like when for context, I'm 5'9". I'm not that, right now I'm 5'9". I'm 175 pounds, but I've gotten up to 270 pounds.
Wow.
So when I was in my 20s, my goal, I'm never going to get over 225 pounds.
How heavy were you in your 20s? Was it early?
It was between probably 190 to 220 because I'd get up close to 225 and then I'd lose it again. But when I was before I got out of high school, I remember doing Nutrisystem because I was heavy. And so that's back when Nutrisystem was first out and the food was truly terrible. The protein drinks, you had a lot of protein. Oh my God, they were awful. It's like, so we're talking, I'm remembering 35 years ago, those protein drinks were
Still awesome.
epically bad.
Epically bad. Yeah.
Epically bad.
Something
Oh, yeah.
has to be epically good or bad if it's still stuck in your memory 35 years
yeah.
later.
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah. So now, protein drinks, like I'll have that. It's like you think, oh, it's a protein powder. You put some chocolate syrup, a little bit of sugar-free chocolate syrup in it. You put a little of this, a little of that. Tastes really good. You make it
Tastes
almost
really
like ice
good.
cream. I mean,
Exactly.
so you use it as a treat, but not then. No. And so I would, up and down, lose. But I've never considered myself to be fit. Never been fit. So I got kind of strong, but still kind of fluffy. So when I was lifting weights with my friends, I think the most I ever bench pressed was 240. My goal was all right.
Wow, that's solid, man. 120 kg, right? Ooh.
Okay, if you
Yeah.
say so. But I'm looking at like,
Yeah, don't look at these big figures of these crazy folks, man. Like they're out of the world. Let's talk about the normal folks, not this one elite.
Right.
120 kg bench, that's solid. Yeah.
Now, remember, folks, I'm a normal human.
Yeah, just
So-
like me. Yeah.
So I'm like the 80% of humans that Gregory is going to coach. I'm one of those. So I'm not one who.
And that's why, Jim, and that's sorry to interrupt. That's why I think it's so valuable
Yeah.
to listen to your insights, because like I mentioned before we started the recording, we have coaches who tune in to listen, and we try to be as empathetic as possible and support the 80% that you were talking about. Because let's be real, even from an economic perspective, my dear coaches, these are the people that you're going to coach. These are the people that you're going to work with. These are the people that put bread on your butter. It's not the fitness cracks. It's not the guys like me, right? And even the guys the guy that you now turn into, kind of like, right? So you had this fantastic journey, but this is so valuable to listen to you and to these insights, because we can only fathom what it's like. We don't feel it. There are some maybe coaches who experience what you have, but most of us, maybe some of us, we have been fit all of our lives. That's why it's so important to listen to you, right?
Okay, and this is a key point, right? When you hear all the story, I don't like to exercise.
And still
Yeah.
up until today.
Yeah. It's like I would rather sit and watch YouTube videos, which is essentially learn. So I watch like a lot of long form podcast type of things. So I learn a lot. And I would rather do that. It's very easy to get, fall down a hole, and then it's too late. Now you can't exercise because it's going to wire me up and I've got to go to sleep and blah, blah, blah. Like circular reasoning, how you can't do it. And now I can't exercise today because I've got to go to bed because I got to get up and work. And then you wake up early for work. And all I want to do is sit, drink a cup of coffee, watch some YouTube videos, put on my clothes, go to work. That's just the circular. So, and I didn't post the video because I'm using my iPhone as my camera. But how did I prepare for this interview? I hit a PR with my 28K clean and press.
Great.
I did my clean and press workout before this interview.
So you're hyped up.
Wearing this
And,
shirt.
please watch it. Yeah, for those who are only listening, he's carrying one of the original hybrid shirts. That was 2021. I remember when we got this made because Jim joined the Hybrid Style Masterclass, the first one when he came out. So yeah,
And I've
man,
never
awesome.
finished it.
Yeah, but it's not easy to finish a course. It's like
But
90.
I'll explain why.
Keep going,
I'll
keep
explain
going.
why. No. It's hard because I'll explain it eventually. Anyway, so I did these things. I never was, it's like I have some issues with mobility and like things like that, like leg, ankle mobility, knee mobility. So I got a reasonable squat, but knowing things now, I wasn't going to full depth. I could never like get down, rock bottom squat, ATG squat, and up. The most I ever did was 400 and something, but it wasn't a full squat. I can't do that. And I remember one time with my friends in their basement, stepping out, and I was going to do a warm up weight, 330 pounds, went down like a sack of potatoes. Like I unlocked my knees and went right down with it. And my friend had, pulled the weight away from because we didn't have
Thank God.
Yeah, it pulled the weight away from my back.
There's some horrible videos out
yeah.
there where
Oh,
people.
yeah.
This one woman. Did
yeah.
you see that video? I shouldn't have watched it. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
like the morbid curiosity from this one woman. I think it was in a gym in Mexico, where she unracks the 100 kg or what it was, and immediately drops down, and there's a bench sitting below her, so the weight drops her down and immediately snaps her back. Yeah, it breaks her neck and it snaps her back in two. Immediately dead.
Yeah.
I think this video made the rounds like 1 or 2 years ago.
I kind of
My God, man.
saw it without watching it. I'm like, I don't need to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was doing like box squats.
No, the guy, it was one of the guys who was squatting that weight. I don't know how heavy it was, but it's one of the guys who squatted that weight, and he was stupid enough to allow the woman under the bar.
Oh.
And it was a guy, it was just a regular guy, who should have known better. You don't have to be a trainer
Yeah.
to know that this type of weight has lethal potential
Yeah.
for some
And that's-
folks, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about squats.
Or heavyweights
they
in
can-
general,
yeah.
right? And see again on another note, it just pops into my head. You're saying you don't like to exercise, but you benched up to 120 kg. See, that's still solid, man. For a guy who doesn't like to train.
I mean, okay. I say that, and do I? Once I start doing it,
Okay.
I enjoy it, and I enjoy the effects. And we're going to get into the reason why I have to exercise.
Yeah. Keep going.
But so and then off and on. It's like I have this half cage. I have this half cage downstairs, and I've got about 300 pounds of I have Olympic bar with about 300 pounds or so of weights, and this half cage has traveled around with me whenever I've moved. And like right now, it's downstairs. I bring it, I set it up, and then I don't work out on it, but it's there.
And it's moving with you.
And it's moving with me. It's like I've carried these. I built carpentry stuff to bring my 300 pounds of Olympic plates with me down when I moved to Florida, down when I moved to Atlanta, and I brought them with me and barely used them. It's Anyway,
At least that was the one exercise that you've gotten.
Yes.
When moving it.
Yes. And so I always, it's like I know it's like I fooled myself. The reason I don't look that heavy, but I wasn't really looking at myself. I don't look that heavy because my shoulders are so big. And my shoulders at one time were pretty big. But I was just fooling myself, because now I look at it, I'm like, you were losing muscle so much. Because I've lost so much muscle. It's like kind of scary now. It's like the back of my shoulders. I don't like it. Anyway.
And may I ask you, when you had this moment when you looked at yourself and you were like, yeah, I'm not heavy, did you really believe what you were saying, or did you kind of like,
no,
fool yourself? Did you really believe it?
No. Well, I didn't. I wasn't really paying attention, because you just, gradually you buy bigger pants, and so you're relatively active, and you're young, so you don't notice it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I was the thing. I had a trucking company, and it's a lot of driving, sitting on your butt, eating crappy food. So there's a lot of fast food. Things like that. And so that went on through, off and on, with not really worrying about my weight until, I remember when I started working for the railroad, got rid of my trucking company, started working for the railroad, and there I was very, very heavy. I almost didn't make the cut to work for CSX, which is a freight railroad in the United States. And I almost didn't make the cut, because one of the things that you had to do was you needed to hang on the side of a boxcar. So it's a ladder. So you had to hang on the side of it and, holding on while you're leaning backwards, and you had to hang on for 5 minutes, I think. Maybe it wasn't 5. Maybe it was like 2 minutes. It was a long time. And so my forearms are burning. I had to buy special gloves that were grippy. Yeah, I did like everything I had to do to make sure I didn't fall off this ladder, because I was pretty heavy, and I passed.
And they were testing it because you actually have to do this in your day job, right?
Yes, yeah. So if you fall off, you'll fall off and die. Little things. That's the thing. Working for the
Little things.
I mean, see the thing, my point of view, it's like I kind of laugh about death and stuff like that, but it's like the reality is when I work for CSX and when I work for the freight railroad, I literally have almost died 4 times. I was 4.5 seconds away from death once, and I know that because I stepped out in front of the Acela in Mansfield, and it was 1,000 feet away, which is about 4 seconds. So, needless to say, I got out of the way. But I've told the engineer to stop, and he went past something that I had to jump off the side of the train. If I had stayed on the side of the train, I would have been crushed. I had one time where something in the back of my head said I really need to move in the middle of the night, and I moved off the side of the car onto the back of the car, and in the night I watched this branch go by where I had been standing, which would have pulled me off the side of the car. It would have pulled me off the side of the car and thrown me underneath. And then there was at least one more time. Oh yeah, the one time. Yeah, I mean, most of it's like you do stupid things.
Yeah. Wow.
You're not paying attention. You do stupid things. I was in between cars, doing something, and you just got so like you're just doing something over and over and over. And I said something, and I actually told the engineer to do something that was going to kill me. And I didn't realize it, but I was listening, so I heard it happening, and I jumped out of the way. And I'm like, "What is he doing? Oh my God! Oh wait a minute! I just told him to do that. Oops."
Oh my.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway,
so
then you moved on. Yes.
So then I moved on. Now the passenger, I go into passenger service, but like there were times where you're walking on ballast. So you're walking on ballast, which is really hard on your knees. So you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're walking for miles on like 1.5 inch stone. So your feet are constantly doing this. Constantly. It's hard. Like guys who work for the railroad wrecks your knees, wrecks your feet, wrecks your knees. And so like people that work for the railroad, their knees are all screwed up. And so I moved over to passenger. And so come 2012. All right. Now, what I'm about to say is the original impetus, the original why for me starting the weight loss journey when I hit 270 pounds in 2012. And so as I said, I'm addicted to computer games. And so this one's embarrassing. The second one isn't. The one in 2020 isn't embarrassing. This one's embarrassing.
So it's two moments, right? That led to your journey, right? The one that you're sharing where you were successful and then gain it back, and then the second one in 2020, right?
Yeah. The second one in 2020 is way more like,
all right,
like, nope, I'm not going there. Because it happened just recently again. And I'm like, nope. I don't care how much I need to bulk and to build muscle. I'm not going there. The heck with it. No. Anyway, so I'm addicted to computer games. I got this computer game in a Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mass Effect
Shepard.
Yes.
Shepard.
Yeah.
And
Shepard.
what's the ship called?
Normandy.
The Normandy. Yes. Yep. The Normandy. Yeah.
Normandy.
La France.
Yes, Normandy. And so in the course of that game, you can, by the means of your decisions and things, you can have romantic relationships with the characters, with the female characters in the game. And so this occurs. And then at some point I realized, wait a minute. The only romantic thing with a woman I've had in recent memory is with these women in this game. And that's because I feel so unworthy of the type of woman I'm interested in that I wouldn't even give it a second thought. And I know they're not going to give me, I know they're not going to give me the time of day, but that's embarrassing. And at that time I had heard of Bill Phillips. I'd heard of Bill Phillips, Body for Life. I'd heard of him.
Body for Life, exactly.
Body for Life. And so he had what's called the transformation camp. Yep. Transformation camp. So
how long's that ago? The 2012, right? You said
2012.
Bill Phillips. Yeah.
Bill Phillips. Yep. And so I went I said, I got to do something. I have to make myself accountable. I got to, drops. And it's a couple $1,000, couple $1,000 for a 3-day camp. And I remember I went to the camp and the very, very positive energy there. And I said, you know what, I'm here. I'm gonna do. I'll work 3 hours a day, and they're like, no, 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 no. The workout's a half an hour a day. Just yeah, you eat smaller meals. It's kind of the classic bodybuilding meal setup, and I did that. So the workouts were what his new kind of workouts were similar to Body of Life, but not really. Are 525. So you have and when I went there the first time, I was addicted to Diet Coke. And I said, okay, I know Diet Coke is killing me. Soda's bad for you. NutraSweet's bad for you. I'm going to cut it cold turkey. And I did over that weekend because I just stopped and I knew this is going to give me headaches. I'm going to take Advil. So the whole weekend I took Advil to kill the headaches. But the way the workouts are designed is it's called 525. So you do like bench, row. This is stupid. I should remember this. No, bench, side lateral, row, bent over rows with dumbbells, tricep extensions and curls. You do that as a superset and then you rest.
Just typical bodybuilding stuff. Yeah.
Typical bodybuilding. But the point is you're kind of like doing it. You're doing the weightlifting like HIIT exercise.
Yeah.
So you get your heart rate up and then you let it come back down. You go 3 minutes, you do it again. You do that 5 times. Then on the next day, you do a HIIT cardio, which is 2 minutes of walking, 2 minutes of jogging, which is, so let's say you get your heart rate to 135, then you get your heart rate to 145, and then you get your heart rate to 160. And then on the 6th minute, then you drop back down to 135. And so you go up, down, up, down, up, down. And one of the problems, and I think I don't know whether you actually saw the video because it was an older video that I sent the link to you. The why in 2017, one of the things that I have, because of things that have happened in my life, how do I phrase this? So I think about suicide a lot. So contemplating suicide is a daily occurrence for me. And so that's just my reality. Whether whether it's serious or whether it isn't. I didn't realize that people don't do that. And when you talk to people about, no, people don't do that. I'm like, really? Because I do it every day. And so the way
may I ask him, are you getting therapy for this kind of for this?
No.
All right.
No.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. Why.
Keep going.
Because the 525 workouts, when you punch your heart rate up to like flat out 160 and then drop it flat out, I can literally feel a weight come off of my brain. It is amazing. That's why when I say I have to work out, it is literally an antidepressant. It is difficult to describe unless you've been there, where you feel the weight of depression in your brain. And when you come out of a 525 or a HIIT workout, whatever it is, I mean, I can get the same effect from the kettlebell snatch test. When you do like a hard thing with kettlebells, can do the same thing. But what ideally does it is you have to go up and down, up and down, up and down several times. And it is like weight comes off my brain. I am a different person.
Have you met other people who share the same experience?
No. I know there are studies that show that high intensity exercise can have an antidepressant effect, and it works as well as prescribed antidepressants.
Wow. So
does the same thing.
Works as well as medication.
The difference is there's no side effects.
Yes, but with the big but is that you have to engage yourself into it.
You have to engage in it.
Yeah, so a lot of people like, I mean, don't want to downplay the situation, but the human tendency is to avoid hardship. So
for me,
popping a pill is easier.
Yes.
Not talking about you, but just from a statistical perspective, people like to avoid hard things. So understandably so, they pick up the medication to help them, right? But in your case, it's different.
Okay, but understand what in accord to what you just said, I know this, and it's hard for me to do it because the level of suck that I have to get to is so high. Like you have to be willing to get into 160, can't breathe. You only have to do it for 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's a long time.
But it's like, oh yeah,
But it's worth it, of course.
But it is worth it when you're
Yes.
done.
Yes.
But the contemplation of,
Wow.
particularly if you're depressed, if you are depressed and you're eating a crappy diet, because that's oh man, it is a circular thing.
A vicious cycle.
Folks, when you eat sugar and you eat carbohydrates and you eat processed food, it downregulates your brain, and you don't want to do it. That's reality, because I'm addicted to all that stuff. So when you eat all that junky food, it is harder to do the thing that's going to fix it.
And I would add to this, Jim, that especially the effects of highly palatable processed foods is what is the worst combination is always this high sugar, high fat content. This is what creates this highly palatable stuff. So I always say that people pop popcorn when they watch a Netflix movie. They don't go up and grab a broccoli, right? Because broccoli is not highly palatable. So because what you're saying, I just want to phrase this a little bit differently, because sometimes people get caught up in because we hear this all the time. People say sugar is bad. And I'm a little bit on the other side of things. I say processed foods can be a problem. The combination of fats and carbohydrates is what we have to look out for. The added sugar is in our meals because we actually want it. If Nestle stops doing it, somebody else is doing it. If McDonald's closes their doors for ethical reasons, somebody else is coming, because there is a economic perspective. We people want this. That's the big problem, right? We have I think Stefan Guine is his name, and the book was The Hungry Brain. He says we have an ancient brain in a modern world. This is the catastrophic combination.
Well, the other thing is
So it's not just the sugar.
Yeah.
It's the highly processed, highly palatable foods that you can't stop eating, which are wreaking havoc on your body.
However, and I will give you a phrase now Robert Lustig. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Lustig.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay, so when he talks about sugar, I mean, he goes into that sugar does the same thing to your mitochondria that cyanide does. That's why when you eat sugar, okay, you get a sugar high for a second and then you crash and you feel like you can't do anything because it's actually turning off your power supply, because it does the same thing as cyanide.
And I think he got it from a study where they were I think it was animal studies where they were feeding the rats like 100 cans of soda a day, or 10 or 15 or some crazy amount. Not want to downplay what he's saying, and I don't want to focus it too much on nutrition. Right, but watch what Alan Aragon has to say about it.
But the point that I wanted to make was Robert Lustig, even when he says that, he says, I think sugar is fine as dessert.
Okay, here we go.
Now,
but you know what?
He's saying sugar is a toxin. However, when I was young and I only had 1 10-ounce Coca-Cola per week, it wasn't a problem. When you're having 20-ounce Cokes a day.
This is a highly debated topic. Just like, kettlebells, it's the same. But watch, I tend to gravitate towards Dr. Alan Aragon. Big fan of this guy because he's very evidence-based. And the way he looks at it is a little bit different. So I wouldn't, the problem, it's totally fine. The problem is if we call something toxic, I mean, and then let's look at the description of what sugar is, carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates are in rice. Carbohydrates are in bread. Carbohydrates are in broccoli, right? So it's everywhere. So the layman understands it, or layman's terms like sugar, okay, that's bad, so it's a toxin. And this is where it's a little bit taken out of context, and it's this alarmist view that, hey, that gets a lot of clicks and gets a lot of views, everybody's listening, but we have to put it in perspective. But just, derailing the conversation. Let's focus on
as dessert. The problem is I'm addicted to sugar, and I'm addicted to carbohydrates. So once I start eating them, I can't stop.
But it's not that you're eating carbohydrates, right? You don't grab a cup of sugar and then you guzzle it. You're eating highly processed foods, right?
Well, no, I can eat rice, like I can eat rice.
Yeah, but you're saying,
you're
saying I'm addicted to carbohydrates. And what I'm trying to say is that it's not that you're grabbing sachets of sugar and then you guzzle them, right? So it's not that you're addicted to the macronutrient.
Sugar.
It is the combination of it, right?
Yeah, sugar. The problem, I think, one of the issues that Robert Lustig has is it's the food companies have scientists that are deliberately designing the food.
100%.
They're deliberately designing the food to make it so you can't stop eating it.
Yeah, so we don't stop. And that's a big problem. But it also stems from the fact that we want that stuff. It's always, and that's an interesting topic of discussion is, and I'm not trying to derail the discussion into too much of nutrition, but
keep talking, because one of the things that I'm also addicted to is drinking stuff. You keep talking. I'm going to go use the restroom.
Keep going.
You
You already have to use the restroom.
Oh my good. You have no idea.
We're just 40 minutes into the conversation.
You have no idea how much I drink during a day. Well, no, I mean, I just did my workout and I had pre-workout
You're right.
and I had a liter of water. And
keep going. Keep going.
I'm gonna mute. You keep talking.
Yeah. So what I was trying to refer to, what Jim was saying, is that the problem is what I always hear when it comes to the carbohydrate discussion is that people think it is this one macronutrient, and this is what I'm having a problem with. People think that, hey, and we hear this, and probably you coaches, you can clarify this. I just lost my train of thought that I wanted to say when Jim left. But the topic of carbohydrates, and I'm sure many of your coaches can agree with me, is the client walks in and says the same thing that Jim now said, right? It's like, sugar is bad, I'm addicted to it. And then they have this strange relationship with sugar or with carbohydrates. And please, guys, check out what, if you're not familiar with the Robert Lustig and Dr. Alan Aragorn debate, please go search it. I think it's 14 years old. I think it was 2010 when Alan Aragorn was refuting some of the claims made by Robert Lustig, or he put it in perspective. And it's a great discussion that Alan then had on his forum, which is very interesting. You have to go check it out. So Jim's back. So Jim, let's move it a little bit further, because you're still muted, right? So let's move it a little bit further.
Yes. Okay. So
right.
Let's see, 2015, in the process of doing a workout. Okay. No, I will. This is another key point. So while I was connected to the coaching, which was 12 weeks, I think they were all 12-week programs. While I'm connected to the program, do really good, lost a lot of weight, then I would stall. So as long as I had the accountability and the group helping,
Makes sense.
And as long as I have a routine, once I get out of my routines, I get all screwed up. So so come 2015, and as you know, I have issues squatting because of ankle mobility and things like that. And so I would always fall over. It's like I felt like I was falling over. And we'll get to the whole squatting thing with you eventually. So I was doing something foolish. I ego lifted. So what I would do is I would take dumbbells and cantilever them out in front of me so that I could get down deeper into a squat. That's fine, as long as you don't use heavy dumbbells. I did a set, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go a little heavier. So I did it with 40-pound dumbbells. So I held a front raise, underhanded front raise with 40-pound dumbbells, and my right shoulder, I did one set. I don't even know how many reps I did, and my shoulder said no. you're done. Didn't hurt. It wasn't like pop. Oh my goodness. It was just like I went like this, and the shoulder said, nope. And I said, oh, let me try another one. I told you no. I told you no. And then gradually it started to hurt a little bit, and I had a torn labrum. So I had to get that operated on. So now.
Oh, wow. Surgery.
Yeah, surgery.
Did it improve then?
Oh yeah. So that was weird. So it was like no improvement. Like I didn't have. Now it's like, I think I've told you this. My right side is stronger. No, my right side is weaker, which is the one that I have the shoulder surgery on, but it has more gas. If this has more endurance, my left side is stronger.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Not by a lot. It isn't by like, oh, I can do.
But you feel it, right?
Oh yeah.
It's noticeable.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So we're and so I gained.
So let's move a little bit forward, Jim.
I
What
gained
I really
60 pounds. Then I did it again. So I went to another camp, do the whole thing, because it's an easy program. Every time I would try to do something else, I would go back to these 525 programs, and then.
But back when you were, that was just to get the timeline straight, and then we move off to the 2020.
Yep.
So it's 2012, the first time you got into the Bill Phillips thing.
Yep.
You had that weekend.
Yep.
Right, and that weekend changed some of your thinking.
Yep.
So then you went on that journey.
Yes.
And how far did you go down?
I want to say I probably went down 50 pounds.
50 pounds, which is
in
big.
The 12 weeks.
Big, all by yourself. All by yourself. Yeah. So no peripheral coaching. You were there. You did it by yourself.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
I mean,
then
other than the Facebook group. But
yeah. Okay. And then it went back up, and then it's like.
Up, I had to go, I would go to another camp, and then I'd do really good for the 12 weeks.
Got it.
And then in 2017, I was at a camp, and I was sprinting. We were going out for a walk jog, and we were going out in the area around in Colorado, and I decided I wanted to beat everybody back, and I sprinted back to the center, and I gave myself 3 hernias.
Through the sprinting?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so you really
3
gotta,
hernias. 3.
3. Yeah. So this is the joke that I do. So and it wasn't really there wasn't a lot of pain, but the issue I had was I couldn't do some ab exercises. Ab exercises were painful in such a way that I didn't understand. And so I go to the doctor. And he says, "Well, I got good news and I got bad news for you." Well, what's the good news? The good news is I know what it is. The bad news is you have a hernia. You need to go see a surgeon. So I go to the surgeon, and the surgeon says, "Well, I got good news and I got bad news for you." Like, okay, what's the good news for? What's the good news? Well, the good news is you don't have a hernia. What's the bad news? Oh, you have 3. So they all.
That was the doc?
No, that's my joke.
Okay, because if it was him, that would be like, oh my God, it was a real story. I get it.
That's how I tell. That's
how you process it. How you tell. Yeah.
And so,
my God.
I mean, he's a funny guy. But anyway,
okay.
So
Imagine.
And so I medicated myself with food, and from 2017, to leave 2017. Kind of Peter Piper, so you medicate yourself with food, you're getting better. So now I'm a little bit better, but so now we're going into 2020. So gradually gaining weight. But understanding that when I originally lost the weight, so I had gotten down to 100. So the first time I got down to 183 pounds. In 2017, I had gotten down to 173 pounds. From 270. So the max that I know of was 270. Could have been higher than that. I don't know. And so gradually, but I had thrown away. So at the job that I do now, so I work in commuter rail, so I deal with passengers. I wear basically a uniform. And one of the things I have to wear is black pants. And I had thrown away all my size 40, virtually like all my size 40 waist pants. I'd thrown them away. Says I'm not this fat guy anymore. I'm throwing away all the pants. Hit 2020, and I blew out the crotch on the last pair
Oh, I remember.
of
I
black
remember that
of
story.
I had two
You
pairs of
shared it
black
with me.
pants left. I had two pairs of black
Yeah,
pants that were size 40,
I
and I
remember that.
had to go buy another pair of pants. And that was like game over. Sorry, I'm not doing I have to do it. I have to go and I have to buy this one pair of pants. I will buy no more. And that was
You
in
know what's
2020.
2020? Yeah. What's so fascinating? What probably some of the coaches listening out there are maybe also familiar with is that enough is enough moment. This is such a powerful motivator, and it's oftentimes a big, it stems from a huge pain point, not from something nice or something beautiful or something that releases dopamines and gives you a lot of joy. Most of the time, it's a big pain issue where, like, that's it, I'm done, forget it. And I've heard this so often. And oftentimes, these are also the biggest success stories. Coming from so much pain that gives you like a second wind or gives you so much motivation to build or to accelerate the journey you're on, build the necessary habits, go through the suck that you're always mentioning. That's such a powerful motivator. It's just something that I see. It's in so many situations.
Is because I know I did mention it to you because you read it in the video you did about me, which was kind of it's like it was in the moment when I threw the pants away that I had kind of forgiven myself for getting fat. And so now you're going back to where you were, where you kind of left that person, and now you're back, and you're like, nope, sorry, ain't gonna do it. And then I want to say it was September 21st, 2020. I started with Noom. One thing I'll say about
Yeah,
Noom,
Noom is great. It's a great app, right?
because it helps you deal with the mental part of emotional eating. People say, "Oh, you got to change your relationship." I mean, whatever Greg Doucette wants to say about, oh, it's just food. You don't have a relationship with
it
food.
is, right?
Yes,
it is a
you do.
relationship. It is. That's fascinating to see. I saw that video too, which I think is interesting. I think it's interesting how he describes it, how he always jumps on the relationship thing. But for many people, I love how you describe it, medicating yourself with food.
Yeah.
So there is most definitely such a big connection to food that it turns into a relationship. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, when my mom died, the day that my mom died, I left because she died at home. I left. I went to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store. I bought tiramisu gelato and ate like half the half gallon because I knew it was going to make me feel better. In that moment of time, I knew it was going to make me feel better. It's actually I kind of learned that phrase from Bill Phillips, because if you know anything about Bill Phillips, he was working out at his house, and his gym was on the top floor of this house in California, and after a leg day, he tripped and fell down the stairs, and popped the tendons on both of his quads at the same time. So now he can't walk because his quads are not attached. And he says, as he's laying there on the ground, he said, huh. He picked up the phone because, he's like Mr. Healthy. He's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. He picked up the phone, ordered Italian. He ordered Italian food. He says, I'm not taking any drugs. I'm going to eat Italian food and numb the pain with the Italian food. He says, I'm going to medicate myself with food, because he knew it. That's basically where I learned it from. Is him lying on the floor.
And did he have a past like similar to yours?
I don't think so.
Okay.
no. But he knew it. I mean, he knew that. He says, "Yep."
Right.
He's
And
laying
he
on,
probably-
he's
and he-
laying on there on the floor, just like
He probably knows
well.
it from working with
Yeah.
so many people in that demographic, because it's like learning the pain points from your and see, that's the difference. That's what I mentioned in the beginning, is understanding and learning about these pain points is one thing. This is what we coaches can do, and that's why I believe having empathy, being joyful with your client, and trying to be as empathetic as possible to really fill yourself in that shoes of your client as he or she is going through that situation. It's one thing, and we have to work hard on it, but we'll never get to have the experience. And so the experience is what really drives it home, right? Where you're saying, hey, I know exactly where you're coming from, right?
And so, fast forward to I'm going to say November 2020. And the one thing I'll say about the 525 workouts is it's an easy thing to fall back on, but it was getting kind of boring. You know, it's like you do the same thing forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I mean, years and years and years and years of basically use the same workout. I know it works, but it's like, and I don't know how I found Enter the Kettlebell. I think I looked up kettlebells, and of course, Pavel came up.
Yeah, of course, man.
And you can watch the entirety of Enter the Kettlebell, and I watched it.
It's
And personally,
one of his best pieces of content.
yeah,
One of
I mean, I love the stick. I love this Russian stick.
it now understanding that it's marketing. I understand. I feel it. I'm like, I got it. Back then it was like a little bit off turning, but I totally get it. And here's, you know, a lot of people give me flack for this. About, you're criticizing. I get it. I get it. Right. But I always say, this man has not only a captivating writing style, which is a skill to first of all, capture you to keep reading, and to make complex concepts simple to understand. That's a skill. And second of all, his communication skills. He's a great orator. He knows how to handle words. The way he does it in Enter the Kettlebell, it's just fascinating. And that's what captures. And that's what, especially that's a marketing skill. Right? See it however you want to. But a big marketing skill is taking something very complex, making it easy to understand, having a strong presence, being filled with a lot of confidence, and then having the necessary oral skills to communicate it. These are marketing skills. And Pavel has it down pat. 100%.
Yep. And I mean, I remember the whole, it's like, Westerners, y'all have tight hips. We're going to fix it.
You're on you're on Soviet territory now.
Yes.
I love it. It's so awesome when you look, especially now, and you too, right? I mean, and we have to say this, and we have to move a little bit fast because I have 45 minutes remaining on the clock, then I have another session. But this is, you also got certified with RKC, right?
I did,
so
yes.
you also have more experience, let's say, than the average kettlebell practitioner, because you went a little bit further, and armed with this knowledge, it is a different thing to watch this whole thing of Pavel doing his thing back with Enter the Kettlebell. And there's still so much valuable stuff in those videos.
Oh, yeah.
I rewatched it recently, and there's so many sound bites and pieces that he says that I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great how he explains this concept.
Quick feet are happy feet.
Quick feet are happy feet. Exactly.
It's like, if
Exactly.
if the bell wants to go somewhere, let it.
Let it.
Let it. The
truth.
bell always wins.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't know if Pavel said this. Did he say that? I think I said this.
Maybe.
The bell always wins. I think that's mine. That's,
One of the,
but who cares?
one
Who
of the-
cares? Yeah,
two.
one of the two.
But it was watching that. It was watching that video.
Yeah.
Having had my injury passed, I looked at that video and I said, "I'm going to break myself in half, so I need a trainer," because I watched the Turkish Get Up, and specifically, I took up kettlebells and I learned kettlebells to learn the Turkish Get Up. And everybody can go to my channel. It's called Jimmy the Chin.
Yes. Oh, I forgot to mention, Jim is also a YouTube channel, so go subscribe to him ASAP.
Yeah, and so Jimmy the Hammer, and one of my. I think that video is hilarious. I'm sorry. Because of the dramatic music, you think it's gonna be awesome, and then you gotta read it and listen to the end because it's like awesome. Anyway, and then so yeah, I got taught by Dan John. I got certified by Dan John. I'm actually gonna see Dan tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm going to assist with an RKC cert down in New Jersey, and Dan is running.
Oh,
And
cool.
what I find cool about Dan is that he gives you his name, his email, his phone number, and he says, "I am now your coach forever." He says, "You can call me, you can ask me questions. Here's my email. I answer emails." I mean, his answer may be like short, like no,
His answer is like, yes.
yes,
Does that work for you? 7 p.m.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the skills, or it's not a skill. It is a skill,
It's a skill.
but it's also a way of handling communication. That's what I've gotten from Dan is like fast, concise, to the point, boom, 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 right? Being quick and really, and also it is a skill. Saying a lot with less,
Yes.
or saying everything that needs to be said in a few sentences or in a few words. That's powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's one of those things that I'm not going to abuse that, but he did. When I got punched in the head at work, I called him and I'm like, "Can I talk to you?" And he made time for me to call him, and we chatted. So yeah, oh yeah, I got punched in the head at work. I was out of work for 3 weeks. So I don't know if you knew that, but
No, I didn't.
good times. Good times. I love my job. Anyway, that's why I kind of want to be a kettlebell instructor. But so one of the things I wanted to touch on, because you're very big on, you don't like the kettlebell, you don't like the RKC snatch, and you don't like the snatch test.
Is that what the interview is all about, right?
No, that's not.
Greg,
what
I
this
want to
whole-
interview and ask you all the questions. Yeah, but keep
No, no,
going.
no.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Which is fine.
Keep going,
I think,
brother. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about that when I hit certain pieces of music, I can think back of when I was taking the snatch test.
Yeah.
And I can show you videos of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I did every rep wrong. And Dan was watching. Dan was the one doing it. And I did every rep wrong. Every single one. But he passed me. Okay.
You want? I see. That's what makes Dan John a great coach, right? Many things, but that's one of the important. That's his experience.
Yeah.
First of all, classify wrong. What does that mean?
Okay,
How can
so-
you do a snatch wrong? Tell me. Because, and let me preface this: you passed it. You went to the full 100. I don't care if it looks like a sack of beans. You passed it. You went the full lap.
Yes.
So hey, I've run. Sorry to keep going. I have ran the marathon. Not me. Just saying this hypothetically. I run the marathon below 2 hours, right? So I have a pace of 20 kilometers per hour. But I look like an idiot when I run. Who cares? Nobody in the world cares because you're killing the marathon. So you pass the snatch test. Nobody cares. Keep going.
So, but the point so I finished the snatch test. Hooray, I get it done.
Great.
And I'm sitting there, and Dan, in front of this certification class, says, "Jim, now bearing in mind, if you've done a snatch test, if you've done this type of thing, you're not going to recover quickly. It's hard, particularly for someone who I'm kind of out of shape. But I can't really say that because I passed the snatch test. So we'll get to that. But he says, "Jim, can you demonstrate your snatch technique again?" And I'm like, you like what? What I was doing, what he said is your effort was heroic. So to have Dan John stand in front of a bunch of people and say your effort in the snatch test was heroic because you were doing it harder than you needed to.
Interesting.
I was doing a dead drop swing. I was doing a dead drop snatch. So instead of kicking it behind me, because the weight was heavy, I was letting it drop. and then squatting it up and pulling.
And that's a technique. Look at how the kettlebell sport guys look at their last 2 minutes or last minute of their 10-minute snatch test, 10-minute snatch competition. It's a technique, and so that's my contention point.
I was doing the whole thing. I was doing the whole thing that way.
Right, and that's not wrong. And Dan recognized it. It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. What he was saying is
here's my thing. According to the perfect standard, it's probably not the way how we are supposed to do it. Not the ideal. But your technique always takes collateral damage when you go into the high intensity zone. Everybody's technique takes collateral damage. And if it doesn't challenge you to the intensity that it is required. So, hey, I do the 24 fairly subtle. Okay, pick up the 28. Look at what your technique looks like when you pick up a weight that's challenging you. And the 24 is a challenging weight. Right? In your case, it was very challenging. But that's why I love that's why I love his response. It's like, you did it, man. You pass. Because you go balls to the walls.
So during the course of so what you're supposed to do is he said you did it in a way that here's what happened is when I was asking people how is my technique, I was doing it with less weight than I was going to do in the snatch test. So now the snatch test, because I'm over 50, is 20K.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so 20K, and so I was doing
still heavy.
Oh yeah, it's heavy. You do it 100 times, it's heavy.
Yeah, it's still heavy. Yeah.
And so I had a lot of things going on, but it's like I would do it with 16K, and so with 16K, I would pitch it behind me better than otherwise. And so if you pitch it behind you, and you use more hip, you don't have to pull it.
You have to yank it. Yeah.
And so because it was heavier, I do the same thing with 24K now. So with 24K, I can do snatches with 24K. I can do it with 26K, but I dead drop it, and then I kind of I pull and squat, I squat and pull. Anyway, so it was just suboptimal. It wasn't wrong. I'm calling it wrong. He didn't call it wrong. I'm calling it wrong.
See, you're calling it wrong. See, that's my point. And I knew, I would have guessed that he didn't say like, oh, Jim, you don't pass because it's wrong. No, right?
No.
He didn't, right?
You
and what happens?
You did it harder than you needed.
Yeah, yeah. But who cares? You passed. Nobody. And just a small little point to add to this. From a biomechanical perspective, when you have a heavy weight that's dropping from overhead down to the floor, there's more kinetic energy, right? The gravitational pull, and that's what I've learned from a physicist. I said it wrong in the videos. I always said, well, the gravity pulls harder on a heavier weight. He said, no. The gravitational pull on Earth is always the same, right, but the kinetic energy increases. Yeah. But the pull is always the same. Yeah. So it wants to immediately drop down, pick up 2 double 32s, and you feel like these bad boys are in love with gravity and are in love with the floor. Oh, yeah. So as soon as you drop them, especially if it's 2 of these, it's like boom. And then you have to have technique. Yeah. You have to have the stability and I'm looking for that word and I can't find it. But you have to have this, the requirement, your body has to have the requirements, not the perfect word, but I'm using this now. It has to have the perfect requirements to handle this type of weight. And if it doesn't have it, if it's not that perfect, it happens like in your case. It wants to drop down immediately, and you have to mitigate this. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get to.
It says, with better technique, you kick it behind you, and you just use more hip.
Yes.
And so now totally I'm better with 20, but you're always practicing. But one of the things I wanted to say about the kettlebell snatch test is like I've looked at the requirements for IKFF. They're worse.
Yeah, it is
worse.
Yeah, it's a combination. And funny thing, great that you're mentioning the IKFF. And sometimes people get this mixed up. I'm not aware of the current requirements, but back when I did it in 2019, it was Certified Kettlebell Trainer 1. That's level 1. That's 100 snatch, 32 clean and jerks, 100 hand-to-hand swing, 32 clean and press or clean and jerk, 60 snatch and 30 squats. And then you also have to work with the clean and press for a given amount of time. So he doesn't want you to rush the clean and press or the clean and jerk. It's not that you can go really fast. He wants to have a dedicated minute. I think it's 2 minutes that you want to work with it per side. So that's everything unbroken. So the kettlebell is not allowed to touch the floor. And this is what wakes up a lot of folks when they're used to the hard style technique or used to high, let's call it like this, the high tension technique.
Yep, high
because then it's like, oh my God, the kettlebell's killing me. I can't rack it. It's rah, rah, rah. So you see the kettlebell from a different world. And then you have CKT2. And CKT2 is, in my case, it was double 20s, 40 jerk with no, kettlebells are not allowed to touch the floor. And then it's 100 snatch with one arm switch. So it's both these. The CKT1 was, I'm not saying easy, but it was fairly good to pass after a couple of times. But the CKT2 was a beast. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I still ask myself how I passed that thing. Because back then my technique was totally, right? It wasn't good. But actually, it seems like I didn't do it wrong because I passed it.
Correct.
But from a technique standpoint, you can always say, well, this is what you have to improve.
Right.
But if you have to, yeah, it could have been optimal. But if you run the laps, you got the reps, and you passed it, you made it. That's my point.
Getting into the why the snatch test in particular was important for me. Mm-hmm. So, and why I think it's not a bad thing, no matter what you do. So I remember leading into it, like I had tried to follow Dan's prep for it, and I wrecked myself because I didn't understand how the prep was supposed to do, and I like wrecked my shoulder. I could not do snatches for like a week leading into this. And so I changed how I was prepping because I knew I had to train the engine and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was using, I used double the weight. So I used double 20s, and I did 5 minutes of deadlifts with double 20s because I figured the power production probably similar. So I'm training my heart the same way. Probably using the same amount of force with my heart because it's not as forceful, but it's double the weight. Anyway. So, and I'm leading it, and I remember walking around before the test, and I'm nervous. I was really nervous. This is a very key point for people to think about. I was nervous because remember that I identified myself. That's important. I identified myself as an old, fat, out of shape guy. Okay, and so I'm asking myself, why am I nervous about the snatch test? I've done it. I've done it at home and I've passed it. Okay? I mean, I've done it with the double 20s. I've done it with I could pass it. I did it at home with a 20K. I know I can do it. Why am I nervous? Because if I pass, it's like, am I nervous that I won't pass? No. I was nervous I would pass. You're like, what? Because the moment you pass, and I may get upset, the moment you pass, you now can no longer identify yourself as what you're used to identifying yourself. You are no longer that old, fat, out of shape guy, because how many people in the world can pick up a 20K kettlebell and do it 100 times in 5 minutes? Not many. And so now
wholeheartedly agree. Yeah.
You cannot call yourself that. And so now what you have called yourself out of shape for 53 years.
Wow.
And now I am not nervous to fail. I am nervous to pass.
Wow, because what is my life? I have to let go of my old personality then if I pass it. I have to embrace this new this new person in front of me that is not out of shape, that is not fat, that is not that failure that you thought of yourself for the last 53 years. So like, wow, that's uncertain territory, right? Wow, how is this going to look like? I don't know. Wow, that's so powerful, giving me goosebumps, man.
And so,
it's so powerful.
When I was doing the test, I remember I can't hear anything. I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and I did a no count. So I had to press it up, and he's like, yeah, put the bell down. And so you get 3 of those. And he said, put the bell
down. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get 3 no counts. And so
But wait. Not no count. You can put the kettlebell down?
Correct. And rest.
I did not know.
Yes, you can rest. And so he said, put it down, rest. And so I was like way ahead because I finished 100 reps with 30 seconds to go.
That's 24 reps per minute almost.
I
right? Something like
Yeah,
this.
pulling fast. I was pulling fast.
Yeah.
And so remember, more gas, right side's more
Yes,
gas. Left
yes.
side's stronger.
Yeah.
And I said, how many I had no idea where I was. And I couldn't, and he wasn't counting out loud, so I had no clue.
Oh no.
And
That's
I'm like,
painful.
And I'm like,
how many reps, bro?
It's like,
Let me know. Where am I?
Where am I? He's like, you got 93. I'm like, all right. I'm like, the heck with balancing this crap out. I'm doing it with my good side. And I picked the bell up and I ripped it out. I ripped 7 out with my right side because I knew the right side had the gas.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Fascinating.
because it's like, it doesn't matter. And that at that point,
Yeah.
you don't have to get 50 and 50. You have to get 100. If you want to do 100 on your right side, that's fine. Doesn't matter, because it gets to the point where it's game day. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just have to win.
That's powerful. That's powerful, man.
Doesn't matter.
Love
Just
it.
do it. And so that was so I think the snatch test has value more for somebody as something to achieve.
I see.
Not necessarily, it's like, why would you do that? It's like, because as Dan explains, he says, everything else we can coach you. We can get you through. If you're having trouble with the Turkish get up, we can coach you through that. We can help you. You will pass. Everything you can pass. But the moment you pick up the bell and you start snatching, it's all you. If we cannot help you. We cannot help you. It's all you.
100%. 100%.
That is the test.
And that is awesome, right? And I especially hearing the story from you and understanding the background and what it did to your future self and to yourself now is awesome. I stand behind this 100%, and I stand behind this concept of you, not versus, but you with the bell. I used to think like it's versus, it's against the bell, but now I came to the conclusion that you want to melt with it. You want to make it a part of your body. And this is going to be a tough relationship at first, and then it's going to soothe out a little bit. And this is the moment where I wholeheartedly agree with Dan. I can teach you everything, but then you have to put in the work. We have 2 coaches who were getting certified under my banner, wanting to understand the techniques and the way I do it. And here's what she said. One of her coaches, her name is Ola. When I told her to prepare for the tests, we have 4 tests actually. And I gave her the requirements. And when she showed up, and by the way, she passed all 4, which I'm really proud of. She said, "You know what changed, coach? I have more confidence." And I said, "That's it. You have more confidence. You've increased and improved your skill. I can't teach you this." I think it goes into the same vein what Dan was sharing. I can't teach you this. You have to experience more confidence. And how do you get more confidence? By putting in the reps. Exactly. Now here's my contention point with the snatch. Not with the test per se, because I like the idea. Pushing people through a certain intense, rigorous activity to let them experience what they're actually learning, even though, and that's a little bit more backtracking a little bit, is I don't think it makes sense from that standpoint where you have people showing up, never having touched kettlebells before or wanting to get certified or coming from the fitness background. Doesn't matter. You've rarely touched kettlebells or I don't know what. Then you have them on this weekend, which I think is awesome. And then have them show up a month later and then let them do the test. Because you have to first get the information and the teachings, then go prep and then show up. So that's one of my contention points. And the second, I don't know what it is with RKC, but Pavel and Strong First are very big on anti-glycolytic. They're very big on don't kill yourself, right? And I've started reading Pavel's book X, which I want to review, and I'm pulling all my how do you say register? I'm pulling all my what's the English word for this? Ich ziehe alle Register. That's the German word. I'm going all in to
I can
properly.
I can sell you a train ticket in German. I don't.
Okay, I got you. But I'm really.
Ein Tisch für zwei Personen, bitte.
Ein Tisch für zwei. Ein Tisch für zwei, exactly. So, what I want to do is with this review, because so many people asked for it. They're like, you gotta read Pavel's Access and then give it a review. I want to give it a proper and solid, evidence-based review from my perspective, without or leaving away my bias as far as I can, because I know I have it, but I want to move away from it. I intentionally have this battle, but that's another thing. But since Strong First and RKC are Strong First and Pavel, I don't know what it is for RKC, are big on anti-glycolytic. And this is the teachings, right? Don't go too hard. Don't go too intense. Have the talk test. Have blah, 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 blah. And then you throw your students into an acid bath. This doesn't make sense. That's my only these 2 points that I have.
Well, okay. I will try to explain. Not that I can, being just some plebe that's only just done it.
And we have just a couple of more minutes, brother, right? Because of the questions that you wanted to ask, just that you know.
Well, I mean, I'll even leave it at this. I don't even mind rebranding and putting, what we've talked about. I don't have any. I mean, the big thing is like how, why did you get into kettlebells and blah, 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 which is fine. I think this is a more interesting discussion anyway. No offense, but I think that the whole thing about, going into the why and how things can change the normal person, it's like, I do not think that you should go to an RKC certification not having done the prep. If you haven't done the 7 weeks of prep, and you can, I did not. Yes, I did push myself, and it was iffy whether I was going to pass the snatch test or not. But I prepped going into it. I mean, you need to be prepared to go to this certification. Don't just show up saying, hey, I want to do this. No, no. Because you're going to have you're going to be an instructor now. You shouldn't be going in not having some idea of what you're doing. So they will polish you up, but you can't just come into it cold.
I see, but
that's not a good idea.
But why, right? Let's look at it from a perspective of a gym instructor, like I was, right? And I even would say that even with Steve's certification, he did the same thing. Okay, you have to prep by yourself, then you learn it from me, and then you have to do the test. This is what doesn't really add up to me, because normally I don't prep for the test. If I go to school, I go to school first, and then I prep for the test. This is my problem.
The only thing that I will say is, remember, I did get taught by a Strong First instructor.
Yes, but you did it on your own, right? You did.
Yeah.
All right. That would be the same. Let's do it like this. Let's give you an analogy. That's like, okay, Gregory, you want to learn all about math, right? Yes, I want to learn. Great. So here we have this weekend course, and then you have to pass this ultra crazy algebra math test at the end. And here, go prep for it. Right? They'd be like, wait. I have to get some schooling first, right? Don't I? Yeah. You get the schooling on the weekend. Doesn't make that much sense. That's my only point. You've prepped, you've passed, which is all awesome, and a lot of people pass it. They prep for themselves. This is great, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not this is wrong. It just doesn't make that much sense. You normally have people showing up. So let's take the gym instructor who says, hey, I want to get into kettlebells. Because the way I did it, for example, is I had Ola and Mahmoud. These are the two guys who were getting certified with me, right? The first two ones. I had them go through the whole online course first. So they had to do all the online course material. Then I had intense 11 sessions with me where we were going through the material. We were talking about the exercises, talking about the basics, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, now you have 2 months to prepare for these tests.
Okay. So to address that, so the way the snatch test, remember, they can get everybody to pass all the other, because you got to be able to do the Turkish get up with the right weight. You got to be able to do the swing, the single hand swing. You got to do all that. We can coach you to pass on that weekend. If you don't pass the snatch test, you have 90 days to do it, and you can either go to an RKC and have them watch you, or you can film it and send it to Dan. So you have 90 days.
Totally fine.
To do it. Yeah,
Totally
you
fine.
have
And
90.
I think it's fine. Which is I would love to know. I should have asked these guys, man. We had them on a podcast. I would have loved to know, was this in your mind when you were creating, when you had the inception of the assert, or did you include it afterwards? Because this is just my educated guess.
They put it in
If
afterwards.
see, so here's my guess. If I have a certification, when kettlebells were new, right? 2000s, or not new, it was a renaissance, right? Based on what I know now. It was not new. It was a renaissance of kettlebells. So here we are. We have this new certification. And now I can boast about the fact that 80% are not going to pass. From a marketing perspective, this sounds incredibly sexy. Oh my God, what is this? Wow, right? This is what I have in the back of my mind, where it's like, let's have these guys show up. Let's have them crash with the snatch because they don't know how to do it. Even though they're fit, I remember this one video that I did about this Highlands game athlete who was struggling with a 24 kg get-up. Was like, what? Yeah, because he's not used to it. Yeah. Everybody struggles with the kettlebell if you're not used to it.
Correct.
Right? Just like I'm struggling with a barbell if I'm not used to it, yep. Right? But the kettlebell is very special because of the low center of gravity and blah, blah, blah,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
So then it's like, hey, wow, this sounds incredibly enticing. I want to see why these guys don't pass.
Yeah.
And that's just in the back of my mind. I'm not claiming I'm not saying that's the case. It's just in the back of my mind that it sounds incredibly sexy if I have people show up for a test that they won't pass, and then they have to come back and get the recertification or whatever.
Possibly, but it used to be infinitely worse. from what Dan says, it's like it used to be way worse. So
yeah, I think Dan brought a lot of common sense into it, and
it was ridiculous. Like some of the things that like having people do, and it's just like you got to bring your bell with you to the bathroom. If you go to the bathroom, you got to carry the. Oh yeah.
What?
Yes. So with the bell that you were using, so the bell that you were using while you're doing your practice and everything, if you had to go to the bathroom, you had to take your bell.
Are you serious?
Yes. They don't do that anymore.
So Dan shared this at the RKCs?
Oh yeah, this is common knowledge. This is common knowledge.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like it sounds like I think the way I get it from, or the thought that pops into my mind is like your firearm. Right?
Yeah.
You have to carry your firearm everywhere you go. I've never spent time in the military, but I'm assuming this is like, hey, your gun, your rifle, your wife, right? Something like this. You have to sleep with it. You have to eat with it. You have to clean. Kind of like, right? Yeah, Come on, it's a kettlebell, man. That's not the same thing, man. It's a kettlebell, bro.
That's the Red Army thing.
Yes.
So
all right,
we'll stop this discussion here because I do.
Yes, brother.
I want to talk to you about something real slight. This is something off the wall, and I would like you to think about. You can cut this out.
Keep going, brother.
Fine, but I would like you to take a look at Tim Anderson's Original Strength. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard so many things about Original Strength. Yeah, what's his name again?
Tim Anderson. Original Strength.
Tim Anderson. Yes.
Great guy. Great guy.
This name popped up so many times. Writing it down. Original Strength.
What Dan told, like the warm-ups that we're gonna do at the RKC are like mostly all Original Strength stuff. He loves it. I mean, it's like I just went to a thing with Dan and Tim Anderson a couple of months ago down in Maryland or something like that. So I am a certified Original Strength professional. So I went to, not only did I do Original Strength, but I also went to the certification. So I can teach people. And I'm going somewhere with this. I have a studio.
Mm-hmm.
My thought was, and this, I actually wanted to talk to you about it, but now, I didn't want to do it online. I wanted to talk to you about it. I said, hey, babe, what if I could trade, if I could come and I can't certify you. I can't certify, but I can teach the class. Teach you and Angie Original Strength, and because it's not and when you look it up, it's not thing like you had your 60-year-olds, your 50-year-olds, all these normal people can do it. I mean, like you don't get sweaty, you don't none of this thing. It's like priming. The basic is you're priming your nervous system to function better. It helps your nervous system understand that you're safe and will allow you the freedom of movement that your body will give you in the moment. if that makes sense. And I said, what if I could get a day getting trained by Gregory, and I'll go train him and Angie and give you like a couple of days of classes, original strength. I don't know how well your students know English because I couldn't do it in German, but and I would teach some of you folks at your gym. Just give it some thought. I'm not saying give me an answer now. I know what your general take on it is like. No. Think about it. Go look at original strength. Take a look at it and say, yeah, that would be cool because it flows in with kettlebells very well. Because it's stuff like.
I'll definitely have a look at Tim Anderson and maybe reach out to him to have a podcast. This is
absolutely.
what I have to do because it's interesting to note when a certain name pops up continuously when I have these conversations, then I'm even more intrigued to talk to him. So this is most definitely I'm going to reach out to this guy. That's one thing that I can do. And the other thing, I've been asked by I don't know who it was. I think I was asked by a couple of instructors and coaches who asked like, hey, can I show up and teach a class? My problem, it's not a problem. I don't have the audience for this. Our clients don't care at all about that stuff. They care about, I want to train, I want to move, and I give you the most bang for your buck in the shortest amount of time. This is the premise, the basic premise. And the audience on YouTube, or the audience who flock to kettlebells and want to learn more about it, look, people like you, this is a completely different audience. I've realized this a long time ago. For example, and this is so funny, talking about YouTube, this is so funny when you look at what's performing on the channel, right? For example, you mentioned the snatch video before we started recording about strong first, right? So people get riled up, and let me preface this. Who gets riled up? A very small niche of folks. And let's break this down. Is it the kettlebell world that gets upset about this video? No, not at all. Who is it then?
The CrossFit people.
Yeah, I riled them up too once. Yeah. But even then,
you were right.
Right? Yeah, that's another topic. So a small subset in the niche gets upset and posts on their forum and says, this guy. And somebody brought this to my attention. I didn't know. This video made the rounds actually on the forum, and I have a new description for our channel. We are the TMZ of kettlebells. Oh, I love that. We're making this thing popular. We are the TMZ of kettlebells. I'm going to use this most definitely. It's funny when people throw stuff at me, I'm like, yeah, I like this. I'm the clickbait merchant. Oh, that's how I do it, my man.
The passenger that called me, hey, Jimmy the Hammer. Now he meant it.
I love this.
He's like, hey, Jimmy the Hammer's here. It's hammer time.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that. See, that's when people sometimes confuse it. They maybe I wouldn't say that this guy meant it in a derogatory sense, right? But sometimes people say they think that they say things or they write things in a condescending manner, and they don't realize that it completely turns like, hey, I like it. TMZ of kettlebells. Hey, right? At least I have a platform. Isn't that funny? But let's just stick to the snatch real quick. Let's just stick to the snatch real quick. Okay. So that small subset of people gets mad about this video, and everybody else doesn't care. And then you have my best performing videos is kettlebell exercises for folks over 40. Workouts. And the more I do this, the more I realize sometimes these pipe bombs where I'm like, this is worse. This is the bad. This is, everybody does this. They get a little bit of attention and then they fizzle out. But the evergreen content is the content that speaks to our audience directly. So I really understand now what works with the audience. I know their pain points. I know the people that we serve. So I know these classes won't work. I've realized them back when Steve Carter was here. We had a class with him and it didn't work. It was cool, but it didn't work. Because these people who show up here are not interested in kettlebells.
Oh, okay. No,
they are. Some of them are, but most of them need movement.
That's why. That's why I'm saying investigate original strength, and you'll understand. That's where I'm coming from. is when you
Like I
look
said,
at
I'm
it,
gonna have him. I'm
you-
gonna have him on.
when you look at it, you're like,
I'm gonna talk to him.
because it's all about movement. It's not about getting like all sweaty and gross. It's like moving better. That's what the original strength is all about: moving better and opening up.
And
And that's
and
what
you know what's
inspires
funny?
me.
I've moved a little bit away from this moving better. And
Yeah.
let me clarify by what I mean with this. We have some clients. One of she showed up yesterday or 2 days ago. When we train, I realized one little subtle thing, and that's the only thing that you realize when you work with people a lot and you gain a lot of experience and you pay attention to the details. So we're training. It was like 4 weeks ago. We're training, and she comes with her son-in-law. So they're here. They're having a good time. And I disproportionately correct her because she makes the most mistakes. But let's backtrack this a little bit. Is it a mistake? Because she only gets injured if load exceeds capacity. You can use bad technique with light weights, no worries. Thank God, because that's how we learn.
Right.
So I disproportionately give her feedback.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a lot. He only gets the motivation because he's a beast, man. He's solid. But she gets a lot of critique. Not critique, corrective feedback.
But it could be considered critique.
Yeah, but she doesn't look at it like this. She knows we're here to correct them. And people appreciate us for this. They say, it's awesome, you get his feedback, awesome, right? And then she says one thing. I give feedback, and then Silvio's his name, her son-in-law. And it's actually just not the son-in-law, just using this description. They broke up, but who cares?
Right.
Who cares? So then I say something, and he's like, is that aimed at me? And I wanted to reply, and she immediately says, no, it's always me.
Oh, ouch.
Now, what does this tell me? This tells me
Yeah, that hurt.
that, and I didn't take it personally, but this tells me
Yeah.
I give, even though I'm aware of this, that sometimes I overcoach people, but the amount of feedback that I gave her the impression that she's not able to move, even though she's doing good. So here's where I move a little bit away from this move better and make them perfect. No. I leave them. They have a great time. And sometimes they mess it up a little bit. Totally fine. That's where I'm pulling back my cues. Because I understand it is not about, these guys are not athletes. And I want to make a video about this topic. Sometimes us coaches, we sell programs that are, if at any rate, could be designed for athletes, but not for everyday people. What do everyday people need? A little bit of carry exercises, some squats, some presses, some swings, some walking, taking care of the diet a little bit, working with a coach who empathetically understands them and pushes them, make sure they get accountability. They need to train, they need the skill, they need the tool, they need the food, and they need the accountability. If you got these 5, you're good.
Right, but honestly, we could say, and this is trickier. This is trickier because it is a skill you have to learn, and a swing is way easier to teach. And I think that's one thing I will say about hardstyle is I think hardstyle is easier to teach
100%.
as opposed to I am okay.
Agree.
I am 100% with you about the sport. Clean and jerk. When I do clean and jerk, I do long cycle. It's totally sports style, 100%. I don't even know how to do the hard style clean and jerk. I'm like, I don't know. This just make like you just sit like this, and it's like it just works. I'm like, all right, no problem.
Yeah.
But we want to wrap this up, so I want to give you I want to give you something. One you can possibly name because I was thinking about this today. It's like one of the things that I do. I'm known at work for the guy that walks. So when I'm at work, when I have time, so like we go down. There's a 20-minute train ride, and then we sit down there for 30 minutes, and I spend the time walking up and down the platform. So I could be playing on my phone, I could be twiddling my thumbs, but I just walk up and down the platform. So I try to get, before I go home from work, I try to get 10,000 steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
And the other thing is, so that what I do is I have a company phone and I have my watch. And the goal is to get 10,000 steps on my company phone
Ah.
because I don't carry it with me as much.
Ah.
So I know
You have more.
I actually
Yeah.
have more than
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
the watch says. So, but the other thing is remember, I'm addicted to computer games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the reasons don't, I'm trying to give you something that you can put into a short. But is one of the things that helps me is I gamify it. Make it a game. So if you're addicted to if you're addicted to computer
Yeah.
games, you
That's
like
a
games,
very interesting point. Yeah.
make the exercise a game.
Love that.
So so 10,000 steps is about 4.5 miles, right? Give or take. I don't know how many kilometers it is, but 4.5 miles. That is however many feet that is. It is each railroad car is 89 feet. We're going to call it 90 feet. Each railroad car is 90 feet. I cut it down to 85 feet. So each car is 85 feet. So you divide 85 into 5,280. So how many cars do I have to walk? So instead of, I have to do 10,000 steps, I can just count cars.
I like that.
So
that.
and every time when I look at the step count, it's like divide it by 33. 33 is the number of steps it takes to cover 85 feet. And so it's actually 34. But so you divide however many steps you have by 33. So now I have this time, how many cars do I have to walk? I don't think about how many steps it is. How many cars do I have to walk? It's now a game. It's now a game. Make it a game. Make it a game.
You're raising such a valuable point. This gamification process of making this thing more interesting and more entertaining, or just in the way to describe it, is so powerful. The only thing that I didn't get until now, which maybe just takes more time, is understanding how to make food a gaming process, how to gamify food, or how to gamify the showing up and showing to the class, right? But you're raising a very valuable point, and this has been talked about very often when it comes to courses, for example. It's like, hey, you've done the course, now you get 5 stars, so you can accumulate these stars, and the more you have, you see in the top 5, everybody gathered these stars. This is a very interesting point.
And it's one of the
Most
reasons
definitely.
I don't tend to follow your programs. No offense, is because your programs are time based generally, and so I don't follow. And I know why you do it, because you can't count. It's like I have a hard time counting, so I just go for time. So it's like it's easier. And you're correct. Oh my God, I can't count.
Everybody has a hard time counting,
lose-
especially when it gets intense.
And so when I like Mark Weilman's programs because they are do this many reps. And so like the program that I have for the clean and press thing that I did today before we came on, is so I had to do 28K, and you do a 3-rep reverse ladder. So 3, 2, 1, both sides. So 3, 3, 3,
Yeah,
3,
yeah.
2, 2, 2, 2,
Great,
1, 1,
great.
1, 1.
Great.
And so I'm counting, and then what he does is he says, "This is how many pounds you've lifted today.
Yes.
This is how much you've
It's a
moved."
great way to look at it.
And so now
Yeah.
the next workout. So I failed this 2 times. I passed today, because what I would do, I could do 1 set. I had to do 3 sets. I did 1 set, second set. And I have a video where I fail and then I pass it without putting the weight down. And so I would do 3, 2. I'd get 1 fail on the right side. Do 2, try it again. No, and once with kettlebells, once you tank your arm, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. And so fail. Today I passed it. So I got through
Awesome.
1
Awesome.
set. So 1 ladder, 2 ladders, 3rd ladder, I get 2. So I'm like 3, 3, good. 2, 2. Ugh. Yeah.
So it's three per side. So it's right. You do three with the left, three with the right, then two with the left, two with the right, and one at the end.
1-1.
So that's one set, and then you do a couple of sets.
And you do so. Like today was 3. So I
Mm-hmm.
had passed the 2 sets, the 2 ladders. So 2
Yeah.
sets, whatever you want to call it.
And how long of a workout is that?
Each set. So each ladder is 3 reps. A 3-rep ladder is about a minute and a half, minute and 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but thing is, you can't put the weight down. So if you put the weight down, you fail. And in my mind, this is in my mind.
Yeah. I like that. But you can put it down after the set, right? So let's say it's like 3 minutes, or let's say something, right? Three and a half minutes, and you have the whole set, or 3 minutes, 2 minutes, the whole set's done.
So I have to time it to make sure I've counted correctly.
Okay.
That's why I time it. I don't time it to time it, but
I'm interested. I'm interested. So it's 3, 2, 1. I get it. How long do you spend working for one set? 3 minutes?
No, 1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes for 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1 is 1.5 minutes, and then I will normally rest.
Both
for 2.
sides.
So yeah, so 3, 2. So the 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1 is 1.5 minutes.
Well, you're going fast then, huh? Okay,
And-
just press or clean and pressing?
No, clean and press.
Oh, so you're going very, very fast, huh?
Yeah.
Pretty
Am I?
fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I get to the last set. So now it's like, all right, I'm doing good. Yeah, and I'm videotaping. I'm recording it so that I can post it to the Facebook group, so I can say, this is what I do to prepare for it.
Yeah.
This is how I prepare for an
Yeah,
interview.
love it. Yeah.
And so now this is my last. So all I got to do to pass this is get 1 rep. Right side. Remember, my right side is my strong side, but doesn't have the gas. No, it's my weak side. Weak side but has the gas. And I go to do 1, fail. And understand that I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you gotta be all right. Clean. So I'm like, I let it go.
Yeah.
Clean, left, 1. All right. Clean, boom. Like, all right, I'm good. That I consider
Awesome.
I consider that a pass because it wasn't a set of. All I had to do was a set of 1, and I did it without putting the weight down.
Which is awesome. And then you do a couple of sets, so it's like let's say 5-6 minutes of work at the end, total volume.
So that is 4.5 minutes of work. That's 4.5 minutes work with 4 minutes of rest. But if I'm doing a
How many sets then?
Today was 3. So the
Okay,
program,
3. Just to make this clear, to understand, so I get a clear picture. You have this 3, 2, 1. If you have both sides completed, it's 1 set. This takes you about 90 seconds to complete it, which going a little bit faster, yeah. Then you do another set, which takes you maybe a little bit longer since you're tired, and then the third set, or you go at the same, right? And then the third set, and then it gives you around a total volume of 5 to 6 minutes. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, just to get this right. And then you call it a day. Then the workout's done?
And that workout is done. That the clean
and press section
is done.
Okay.
And so I will do other exercises later, but that's all I had the time for. So the next workout, the way the thing's programmed is the last time I did, it's sets of, so a 5-rep ladder with 24K. And so you gradually, so now you go up. You do
Sounds
3
like
sets.
and that's Mark Wildman's system. Sounds very cool. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so he calls it the Tetris of training. So you go up, and you're constantly like doing different. Yeah, and he tells you how much weight you're moving. So you do 3 sets. So the next time I do 28K, it will be 4 sets of 3.
It's a progressive method. Yeah.
It's progressive.
Progressive overload. Yeah.
But my next workout will be 26K.
Then you're going down with more reps than me.
But you're doing
again,
more
right?
reps. You're doing more.
I like that.
You're doing more reps in the ladder. So
We do a similar. Yeah. We do a similar type of training. Yeah. With always, and I like this idea. I like this idea of.
Yeah.
Yeah. We call it, and actually, Emilio Joubert, he calls it the ascension method. And then we use this type of training, put it in an AMSAT method. And while I like the circuits where we only work for time, we also use reps as well. So it's like the AMSAT, it's the sometimes the Tabata, But the reason why I time workouts is because from my perspective, it comes from a teaching classes and teaching sessions where we have to abide by the time that we have, right? So then, but if, of course, if you train by yourself and it's like, hey, I like reps more, both work very fine. But Jim,
also,
I have to.
It's also a game,
brother. I have to.
Again, you got to cut it. But it's
again, a game, and I like this idea. I like this idea most definitely.
But when you're doing a 5-set
Brother Jim.
ladder, is like 3.5 minutes of work. So, you know, and
So then it's 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1.
That's
right?
3.5 minutes of work.
And then you rest.
And then you rest for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and then you can do up to 5 sets of 5 rounds of that. So then you're doing like 20 minutes of work. Oh, you're wrecked. You're wrecked.
What I like about the kettlebell, what I like the way we do it, which I totally like this idea from Mark. It's a very cool way to train. What I like about kettlebells is having a minimal amount of rest. Almost no rest at all. I call it the hunter-gatherer training method. It's like you're out in the wilds. You cannot tell the animal, hey, wait, I have to rest. It's running, it's going fast, it's going slow, it's hiding in the bushes, it's jumping, it's killing the animal, hunting it, then carrying it, going back. This is kind of like how I imagine kettlebells or the way we train. And that gives it a very, very cool, subtle, or cool approach to, that's why I call it the hunter-gatherer method.
Don't tell anyone, but technically I'm supposed to be doing 1 to 1.5 minutes of rest. But with 28, with 28,
you have to take a little bit more.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, hey brother, listen.
It's supposed to be a minute.
Okay, awesome, brother. Hey, it was awesome talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's always great catching up with you and seeing the progress. And just to reiterate this point, seeing your progress, because I know where you're coming from, and now, first of all, the weight loss journey, which is so immensely powerful and inspiring to everybody else who not just has to lose the weight, but also to coaches and people who work with these types of clients. Like, wow, this is just powerful, first of all. Second, then getting certified with RKC, taking it to the next step. And now working with Tim Anderson from Original Strength. And now even working as an assistant coach, right? I mean, you've had such a powerful journey, which I know where you're coming from, or at least I've seen you in that early stages, which I think that makes me so happy, brother. I'm really so happy for you. So awesome.
What do you mean I can't squat?
Inside a joke. Okay, Jim, let's cut this one. We'll stay in contact, right?
Yeah.
We help busy over 40s get in shape in 30 days with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week. Grab your free ebook to find out how we do this. Type yes in the comments or check the link in our bio or description.